Today I thought I'd do more of a laid back video and just take a look at some Destiny 2 hot takes. Now these takes aren't going to be too hot, these are just ones that I found to be more likely to spark some interesting conversation that we can discuss further in the comments. But there will be some of them that I think some of you will find to be fairly spicy. Argos from Eater of Worlds is the best raid boss. Look, I like the Argos fight, a lot actually. It's my favorite raid encounter out of all the Year 1 raid content. But the best raid boss? I think there's definitely much better that had come before, and certainly much better ones that have come since. Cayde wasn't that cool. I think over time Cayde became almost a caricature of himself due to the more cheesy writing in Destiny 2, but for sure, Cayde was cool. Still my favorite character in the franchise. You know, he's a character that used humor to mask his tragic backstory. I think he's an amazing character. Gambit is the most consistently fun mode in the game. You know, this is partially true for me.
What?
When Gambit first released, I grinded it for hours and hours, not just for the title and the malfeasance chase, but because I just loved it, even long after earning everything in the game mode. I spent countless nights just playing it because it was fun to me. Certainly, Gambit has never been perfect, but it gave me the same sense of competitiveness that Destiny 1 Trials did. I think over the years, it's definitely gotten worse, there's no questioning that. And I know not everyone will agree with me when I say that the original version of Gambit was in fact its best iteration, but I truly think it was. The 3 different rounds made the games longer, but I still preferred it. Bosses didn't have immune shields, which I also much preferred. Yet despite the changes to mechanics over time, and the lack of new maps, I do still occasionally find myself playing Gambit for fun. Which is why I wish it saw some more attention to keep it feeling fresh and new more often. Deepstone Crypt is better than Wrath of the Machine. Definitely gonna disagree with this one, but I know a lot of you really like Deepstone Crypt. I think that the atmosphere, design, and feeling of going on a journey is pretty cool throughout the Deepstone Crypt, but the mechanics aren't that interesting to me at all. It's not really fun to me in the same way that Wrath is. Wrath was just exhilarating, action-packed chaos with much bigger highs, and I do prefer the Siva aesthetic of Wrath over Deepstone Crypt's aesthetic, even though Deepstone Crypt is again very pretty to look at. The boss fights were certainly much better in my opinion as well. Comparing Axis to the literal abomination that is Tanyx, it's not even close. But again, feel free to disagree with me there. The EXO Stranger isn't thick. Now I wasn't the biggest fan of Beyond Light, but the plot surely did thicken with the EXO Stranger. Xenophage is overrated. Hard disagree. It has consistently stayed on my character for years and is a go-to weapon for any activity for me. Even if it isn't the highest DPS weapon, it is extremely versatile and helped me solo flawless multiple dungeons. I found it particularly useful during the Keitel fight to take out the Bellkeepers almost instantly. I think Xenophage is a great weapon for sure. Dominus Gaul wasn't a villain. This take I found to be pretty interesting, and I had to think about it for a minute before coming to the conclusion that they might be partially right. Gaul basically just wanted to prove to the Traveler that he deserved the light because of his accomplishments and his hard work. Gaul wanted to be chosen. He wanted to be a guardian of sorts. He wasn't like the Fallen who wanted revenge on the Traveler, or the Hive who hate the Traveler and the light. He simply wanted to be a guardian and use the light to protect his race from the coming darkness. He likely thought he was the best option to lead and use the light to hold off against the impending threat. Now one could easily argue how he went about pursuing it was villain-like. Trying to capture the Traveler, killing guardians and those in the last city. He could have proposed an alliance of some kind instead. But we the Guardians did kind of provoke the Cabal in Destiny 1 in our journey to find the Black Garden, and we notoriously stepped into a war with the Cabal on Mars during the Exclusion Zone mission. So the idea of an alliance might have just been off the table altogether in his mind. And it's one of the many examples of, are we the bad guys, you know? Interesting idea for sure. Destiny could have thrived as an esport if it were given the support. Never forget that the MLG Destiny exhibition stream pulled in around 100,000 viewers. Destiny 1 competitive tournaments were awesome to watch. Not just the more official ones, but even the community-driven ones were fun. The gunplay in Destiny 1 was far more interesting than I think it ever has been in Destiny 2. It was much more similar to the classic Halo games, but of course, faster than Halo. And Destiny 1 PvP was never designed to be a competitive game, and I think that's the reason a competitive community cropped up from it. It was fun first. And I think D2 Vanilla proved that making things as balanced and as forced fair as possible killed off the competitive scene a bit. And I don't care for esports all that much as a whole, but I cannot deny that watching the D1 tournaments back in the day was very fun and interesting. Curse of Osiris is way better than Taken King. Deepstone Lullaby is overrated. Now, it's not my favorite track in the franchise's history, but it's certainly my favorite in Destiny 2. I don't think any of the Destiny 2 soundtracks have stuck with me like Deepstone Lullaby has. It's right up there with Tranquility from Destiny 1. Garden is the best raid, and I stand by that. Garden had some interesting ideas. It's actually very similar to the Vault of Glass in many ways. I just think that some of the encounters were a bit long and janky, and the tethering mechanic certainly was not my favorite. I do love the art design of the raid. I think it's top notch, probably one of the best looking raid spaces in the game, but yeah, I think it might be my least favorite raid in Destiny 2 unfortunately, so I disagree with this take. I think the hard-on people have for Taken King is way too much. It was an amazing campaign and raid, but after that led to the worst year in Destiny history, with literally nothing else. I think I had more fun with Rise of Iron, and especially more fun with Forsaken. I'm not going to pretend that the year after Taken King's launch was perfect or incredible because it wasn't, but I do always find it funny when people say there was nothing else after Taken King's launch. Holiday events had never been a thing in the game before Taken King, so Festival of the Lost was brand new in October. Sparrow Racing League in December was also a hit. Crimson Days in February was a great twist on the elimination game mode, and the April update revamped a few old strikes, added a new one, and brought the Taken version of Prison of Elders, which were all great. Not to mention that this was a free update, completely free. There was not nothing after the Taken King launch. But again, it certainly wasn't as content-packed as Forsaken's year, that's definitely true. But the Taken King expansion itself was incredible, I don't care what you say, it's an S-tier expansion. 90% of PvE activities are too easy. Raids need to be harder. I'm going to combine these two because I think they are both true. PvE content in Destiny 2 is mostly a joke, from strikes to seasonal content to raids and dungeons, all of it. Now some of the content may be harder mechanically at times in raids or dungeons, but survivability makes it a joke. We have so many ways of staying alive with mods and resilience buffs, and of course the resilience stat which was buffed in the game to make it much easier. I don't think the game needs harder mechanics or more boss invincibility phases, it just needs to have enemies that hit harder and have higher health. Not to ridiculous spongy levels, but I do think Destiny 1, even in its current state, should be the standard for enemies and bosses in D2, in terms of how hard they hit and how much health they have. I know not everyone will agree with me here, but D2 just doesn't feel rewarding when it's so dang easy. There's very little threat of dying or failure. ACP over CAP. If you don't know what this is referencing, it's the order in how you would do damage phases for the Insurrection Prime boss fight in the Scourge of the Past raid. This one was a hot button issue at the time, the same way people discuss Oryx being at the front or the back of the room. And I'm not going to get too deep into this one, but I agree with this tweet. My team and I just did ACP because it was alphabetical and made the most sense. CAP, yes it spells cap, yes that's also easy too. It's just a preference thing, but ACP made the most sense to my team because A always comes first. So that's just what we did. Combined Arms was the best PvP game mode Destiny ever had, and made way more sense in a game like Destiny. Huge maps, vehicles, and separate buildings made the game feel way smoother and less try-hard. I don't think Combined Arms was the best game mode Destiny PvP ever had, but it was another great option. Sometimes you want to break from the arena-style gameplay for a moment, and felt like tearing it up with a land ship or a pike. I really don't know why Bungie didn't bring the mode to Destiny 2. I know it isn't as popular as regular Crucible, but it is nice to have options. And Combined Arms was a lot of fun in Destiny 1, and I do wish it was brought forward for D2. Sparrow Racing League is very overhyped, it got very repetitive and boring quickly. Now Sparrow Racing was not my favorite thing in the world when it was around, but it was, again, another great mode to break away from the monotony of the Crucible at times. As for it getting boring quickly, maybe it could be if you were playing solo, but going in with friends, it was always a blast. Just smack-talking each other, trying to wreck each other off the map. It was a very fun distraction, especially because it came temporarily. It wasn't always around. The Red War campaign was better than Forsaken. Activision actually wasn't the problem with Bungie. I hate to say it, but I definitely agree with this. Activision is a terrible, horrible company, there's no denying that, but the pressure of a publisher forced Bungie to deliver more for the price of their DLCs. Ever since Bungie went independent, the monetization has only increased, while the amount of content has decreased. Bungie is comfortable with their content model now, and I believe that complacency is the death of innovation. There never should have been a Destiny 2. Looking back at how things have turned out, I would agree with this partially. I was never opposed to a Destiny 2 prior to its release. There's been good things that have come from a sequel, like the class abilities, mantling, that kind of stuff. But virtually everything else has been a downgrade in a lot of areas, at least in my opinion. Weapons don't feel as punchy as they did in D1. The lighting and graphic style of D1 is far better than D2, I don't care what you say. The atmospheric lighting style of D1 just made the game look much better than the more artificial feeling of D2. I think there were just too many wrong decisions made with Destiny 2, and if they were to make a Destiny 3 and combine the best elements of both games, I'd be pretty excited for that. Destiny 2 is a PvP and PvE game. This narrative that one takes precedent over the other is bull. Everyone has their preferences of the two, but both are fundamental aspects of the game. One of the core concepts of Destiny is the idea that they exist side by side. 100% agree with this take. PvP is what made Destiny skyrocket into popularity in the first place. At Destiny 1's launch, it brought over the Halo crowd, the Call of Duty crowd, and other gamers alike, and it was to experience the competitive multiplayer, not the strikes, the raid, or the campaign. A lot of that was an afterthought for most players who were getting into the game at the time, who after being sold on the PvP experience, then began to branch out to the PvE side of the game and found that they enjoyed things like nightfalls and raids. PvP continued to be a major driving force for the game over the next few years of Destiny 1, receiving so many new maps and modes, balance changes, and of course thriving with the popularity of trials and competitive tournaments. PvP is extremely important for Destiny, despite what people say these days, and despite Bungie's lack of effort to give it any attention. And if you guys want to have some good PvP moments in Destiny, they still do exist in Destiny 1, and there's surprisingly a fair number of people in PvP on that game, so I recommend you try it out. Leave your thoughts on these hot takes in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.